Hey guys, what is up? My name is HD, and today you're watching the first episode of Battle Vlog. Before I get into the talk, the gameplay you're watching is some Sharky Peninsula rush attack as an engineer. Now our team had a few issues in the game, specifically the second base. The enemy was dug in on the hill on the way down to the construction site, but overall it was a pretty good game and we did steamroll them at the very end. Because we took the B MCOM first at the TV station, which is probably the most important MCOM to get at that base. If you get A first, you will have the enemy dug in the room, and it will be impossible to get into B. Anyways, today the topic of the video is Battlefield 3 as a whole. As you may know, the game is finished. No more patches, no more content, it's done. So I thought I'd go ahead and make a Battlefield 3 review, kind of. Instead of just making an endgame review and stating my thoughts on endgame specifically, I will be talking about endgame in this video, so stay tuned. But this video is more of a retrospective look on Battlefield instead of a review, I guess. It's not really me trying to give a score for the game. It's just me trying to give my thoughts as a player from start to finish of what the game has become and what I am expecting of Battlefield 4 maybe that might be transferred over from Battlefield 3. So when the game was first released, no one really knew what the best setup was for the game, what the best gun was, what was good or bad. Everyone was pretty much experimenting, and that pretty much led to a very, very interesting game. Everyone was trying everything different. You know, the EOD bot was still actually being used. It wasn't just being used for the lulz. It was actually tactically tried. But of course, over time, people started to realize that, well, oh, this gun's great, or this gun's great, or, you know, this setup's great. And other than the USAS frag rounds, which is, oh my god, I hated that setup so much, and the FAMAS, which, for me personally, I never really thought of it as OP, because, yeah, I had the ridiculously high fire rate, but it was practically useless anywhere beyond close quarters. Everyone pretty much realized that the best gun, or best guns, were the AEK-971 and the M16A3 for the assault, and the M4 for engineer, and, you know, so on and so on. Everyone pretty much found their best gun. I think everyone pretty much realized that the foregrip and suppressor on any gun pretty much made it better. It was very stable, it was very accurate, and it didn't really have that many downsides, and you didn't show up on the minimap, which was very, very nice. I actually missed that setup. I mean, of course, everyone knows nowadays that the beast setup now is foregrip and heavy barrel. I guess I just miss having the ability to be silenced and actually still be lethal. You might be saying, well, yeah, it's so lethal, you just have to be, you know, a little bit more cautious with your bullets, and maybe the gun you want to use has a higher fire rate to pretty much make up for the lack of bullet speed. But, you know, it's just not the same as it used to be. Which brings me on to my first little nitpick of Battlefield 3 looking back. There's specific loadouts and guns that are constantly used, and these are, to me, these tryhard loadouts that you can't really beat, because yeah, they are actually the best loadouts in the game, and it kind of sucks that DICE has done that. Now the big patch tried to change it and like add variety to, you know, the loadouts, because they didn't want the suppressor and foregrip to be just constantly used for the Battlefield 3's lifespan. But what they pretty much did was transfer it from foregrip and suppressor to foregrip and heavy barrel, and that really doesn't change much. And these are ignoring some setups like the foregrip and laser sight, which has pretty much stayed the same throughout Battlefield 3's lifespan, or some of the flavor of the month loadouts, which are like maybe the foregrip and flash suppressor for machine guns. But I think you guys get what I mean here. So anyways, let's talk about Karkan. Of course, this is the first DLC that came out in Battlefield 3's life. And it's probably one of the most welcome ones to the Battlefield 3 community in general. I've never seen anyone actually talk badly of Karkan. I think everyone liked Karkan simply because these were some of the best maps in Battlefield 2. And, you know, there's still good maps in Battlefield 3, and I think that's really why Karkan was such a success. Everyone knew that these maps were going to be good. Plus, I think we got 10 new weapons, if I'm not mistaken. So you know what, yeah, Karkan was probably the best DLC overall for me, in my opinion. Right after that is Aftermath, but we'll talk about Aftermath later. and talk about the long grind to close quarters. It took them half a year to finally release this patch, and I wouldn't be so pissed off with that if the game wasn't completely broken before the patch was released. But it was also a very good showing of how Battlefield 3's community could, influence Battlefield 3. You guys might remember it. It was a terrible, terrible thing. And that was the undersung M26 mask glitch, or, dart, or whatever freaking shotgun you ended up using, because I know you all ended up using it at least once. And for me, like the USAS 12 frag rounds glitch, I guess you could say, this was heavily influenced by YouTube. A lot of people made videos like exposing this glitch that was already exposed, and pretty much everyone saw it and used it instead of, having it so that DICE saw this glitch and they saw it and they would patch it. Instead, DICE sat there for a long, long time while everyone pretty much used this, and servers had to actually ban underslung shotguns and the G3. Surprisingly, a lot of people didn't like the G3 because it does 34 damage, and 34 times 10 is 340 damage, which means it had a higher one hit range. A lot of those things were banned, and the community has to actually take control again. And DICE didn't do anything for a while, and then we rose up as a community where we were fed up with it, and we actually showed them that this is not right, and they patched the game for us finally. And I don't want to seem too negative, but I'm going to cover good and bad equally. So finally, Close Quarters comes out. We get a few more guns, and we get these close quarter maps, which is very controversial in the Battlefield 3 community. You either loved it or you either hated it. There was not many people in between. Me personally, I didn't really care much for the maps, but I did really care about the guns that came with the DLC. And as you can see, I am using one right now, the ACWR. I found out a lot of the guns from the Close Quarter DLC were really good or either really crap. But that's all I cared about, the guns. Which I will also say, I think DICE should have included 10 new guns with every DLC so that, even if the people didn't enjoy the maps, they could at least get new content that they enjoyed or could, at least mess around with. Next we had Armored Kill, which again, you probably still loved or hated. Me personally, as a Battlefield veteran, this was not what I expected. Yes, we got bigger maps, but we got also a really, really broken gunship that it took forever to fix, and pretty much ruined the rush game mode. But the real problem I had with Aftermath is they increased the map size without increasing the player size. I used to play mods for Battlefield 2, like Forgotten Hope or Project Reality, which had servers that could go up to maybe even 200 players at times. Now, I'm not saying that I wanted 200 players to be on Armored Kill servers. It probably wouldn't work because Project Reality had way bigger maps than Armored Kill. What I am saying is I wish they, up the player count somewhat for PC at least. Maybe, 80 or 75 or even up to 100. I don't know how that would work, but they should have experimented. Oh yeah, also gunship, they should have taken it out. It does not work with Battlefield. Sitting up in the air, 1,000 feet up in the air in some sort of gunship, just raining explosive death on your opponents all day, every day is not Battlefield. That's not fun. And the fact that it was completely broken for maybe a week or so, 2 weeks, it was completely ridiculous. And it also came with a paradrop feature, which also completely ruined Rush. That's right, it completely ruined it. I'm very serious. On PC, in North America, there are 0, I'm saying 0, Rush servers for Armored Kill. And I really think it's on the gunship. So that's why I never really ended up liking Armored Kill as much. Next we had a few issues with modding. I think it was around the month of October. The game was out for a year, and people were finally, trying to mod the game. We had the color tweaker, we had the night mod, all that great stuff. I personally love the color tweaker because it actually brought color back into the game instead of this very gritty, non-saturated game. And it was great seeing these mods finally out, and I was hoping that DICE would be okay with this, but of course, nope, it's all about the sales now, which is kind of sad, in my opinion. So finally, Aftermath came out, mods were officially banned, and I think DICE did something to the files to make it impossible to mod anymore. And my thoughts on that already, but Aftermath came out, And I think it really kind of revived the community slightly. I mean, I know a lot of people were really getting tired of Battlefield 3 at this point, and I think Aftermath, really was that good DLC that really got people back into the game. To me, it brought nostalgia of BC2 because it's so, I guess you could say, infantry focused. Um, I guess Endgame for a lot of people brought back that BC2 nostalgia, but for me, Aftermath was really that, DLC that brought back the nostalgia for me, and easily became my most liked DLC for a while until I realized, this isn't exactly the best DLC. I think Karkan was really the best DLC for what it offered, but and we got the Expo, which I don't really count as a weapon. I think it's more of a little souvenir, I guess, for having Aftermath. I can't really say there was a lot happening in Battlefield 3 scene after Aftermath was released. Nothing big and new really happened. So I guess I'll jump straight to Endgame. My Endgame experience has been, a roller coaster. At times I like it, at times I don't really. For me, the maps feel very linear, but I'm not saying it's a bad DLC. It's decent, but I do think DICE could have ended on a higher note with the ending DLC. But it really sucks seeing that DICE is done with Battlefield 3. It's kind of shocking. It's almost 2 years, but it's done. So I guess we'll just have to wait it out until Battlefield 4. From what I've seen of Battlefield 4, it looks interesting. This new spotting mechanic and such, maybe. But it's single player footage we've seen already, so nothing really special. I'm really waiting for that multiplayer footage. Hopefully that'll look good. But anyways, guys, thank you for watching. If you liked what you've seen here, go ahead and check out my channel. If you're watching from Pixel Enemy, if you're watching from my channel, give it a like and subscribe if you like it. But that's it, guys. Color come out.